Imagine this. You open your eyes. Everything around you is silent. The air is hot, humid, and heavy. The trees look nothing like the ones we know today. They are enormous, their leaves are thick, and ferns taller than a human cover the ground. Suddenly, the earth begins to shake. At first, you hear a faint sound in the distance. Then the trees begin to move. A creature resembling a bird, but with wings several meters wide, flies above your head. Before you can understand what is happening, a gigantic head appears between the trees. It is not an elephant. It is not a giraffe. It is a long-necked dinosaur weighing several tons. And you have just awakened to the most dangerous morning in human history. Because there are no houses here, no cities, no guns, no medicine, no emergency services. And worst of all, you're not at the top of the food chain. You may think you're the hunter, but in this world, you look much more like prey. Of course, in real history, humans and non-avian dinosaurs never lived during the same period. The large dinosaurs disappeared tens of millions of years before humans appeared. But for a moment, let us imagine that a small group of early humans somehow found themselves in the age of dinosaurs. How would they survive an ordinary day? Could they stay alive? Or would they disappear before the end of their first night? Today, we are going to imagine their experience step by step, from sunrise until darkness. And by the end of this video, you will discover that dinosaurs might not even have been their greatest problem. Morning, the most dangerous time. The first thing early humans would do after waking up would not be hunting. They would listen, because in this world, a single sound could mean the difference between life and death. A tree branch breaking, leaves moving strangely, heavy footsteps somewhere in the distance, or perhaps the opposite, every animal suddenly becoming silent. That silence could be the worst sign of all. Because when the entire forest suddenly goes quiet, it may mean that a predator is nearby. Humans could not safely sleep in an open area. Finding a cave would not always solve the problem either. Another creature might already be living inside it. They would probably choose an elevated location, the top of a rocky hill, a strong platform built between trees, or a stone shelter with a narrow entrance. But a hiding place that protected them from enormous dinosaurs might not protect them from smaller predators. Some predatory dinosaurs were not much larger than humans, but they could still be faster, stronger, and far better at detecting prey. The early humans' greatest advantage would not be sharp teeth or claws, it would be intelligence. For that reason, one or two members of the group would probably stay awake throughout the night. While everyone else slept, they would guard the fire and listen for movement in the darkness. But fire would be a double-edged weapon. It might frighten many animals away. At the same time, it could attract the attention of predators from a great distance. A fire glowing inside a dark forest would send a clear message. There are living creatures here. Searching for water. Once the sun rose, the group's most important task would be finding water. A person can survive several days without food. But in a hot and humid environment, humans would not last long without water. The problem is that approaching a river or lake would be extremely dangerous. Water sources attract every living creature in the area. Enormous herbivorous dinosaurs, smaller predators, insects, reptiles, and perhaps something hiding beneath the surface. The humans would not simply walk up to the water and start drinking. First, they would examine the tracks along the shore. Were there fresh footprints? Was there blood nearby? Were strange ripples moving across the surface? Was a dead animal lying close to the water? If there were a carcass near the shore, the group would probably leave immediately. The water might be contaminated, or a predator might be hiding near the body. They would choose flowing water instead of stagnant pools. Perhaps they would collect rainwater from giant leaves, or dig into the soil and wait for groundwater to slowly rise. But there would be another danger they could not see: microorganisms, parasites, poisonous plants. Even perfectly clear water could make them seriously ill. If they knew how to preserve fire, they might attempt to heat or boil the water. But this would not be easy. They would need some kind of container. Without a clay or stone vessel, they might place heated rocks into a hollow wooden container filled with water. Every minute would matter. The longer they remained near the water, the more likely something dangerous would find them. Food. Could humans hunt dinosaurs? Movies and video games often show humans hunting dinosaurs with spears. In reality, this would be an incredibly bad idea. Even approaching a herbivorous dinosaur weighing several tons could be deadly. It would not need to be a predator. One kick, one tail strike, or one accidental step could kill a human instantly. Smaller dinosaurs might be too fast to catch. Humans would not be able to outrun them. Instead of hunting large dinosaurs, early humans might follow them. Why? Because gigantic animals would create paths through dense vegetation. Broken branches would make the forest easier to cross. Fruits, seeds, and plants knocked down by the dinosaurs would remain on the ground. Their movement might also frighten smaller animals out of hiding, making those creatures easier to catch. Occasionally, a sick or injured young dinosaur might become separated from its group. Attacking it would still be extremely dangerous. If its mother were nearby, the entire human group could be destroyed within seconds. Their main food source would probably not be dinosaur meat. It would more likely include small eggs, insects, roots, fruits, nuts, small reptiles, fish, and meat left behind by other predators. A dinosaur egg might look like the perfect meal. But approaching a nest would be one of the most dangerous thefts imaginable. One person would grab the egg. The others would watch the surroundings. Then, everyone would run as quickly as possible. But many dinosaurs did not abandon their nests. They protected them. And the humans stealing the egg might encounter not only the parent dinosaur, but also another predator searching for the same meal. The most dangerous encounter. Around midday, the group moves through the forest in search of food. An experienced hunter walks in front. He holds a spear in one hand and a burning branch in the other. Suddenly, he stops. There is a massive footprint in the mud. It is several times larger than a human foot. The track is fresh. No rainwater has collected inside it yet. That means the animal that made it is still nearby. The group begins to move backward. Then they hear another sound behind them. Now they are trapped between two directions. A predatory dinosaur emerges from the forest. It may not be the largest dinosaur in the world, but against a human, it does not need to be enormous. Its speed is enough. Its teeth are enough. And it is not afraid. The humans would not try to fight it. They would try to confuse it. One person throws a burning branch. Another begins shouting. Then the entire group runs in different directions. It is a brutal decision. If they separate, the predator may choose one person. But if they stay together, all of them might die. They would not run across open ground. A human could never defeat a dinosaur in a race. Instead, they would use thick trees, rocks, and narrow spaces. The larger the predator, the harder it would be for it to move through tight terrain. For once, the humans' smaller bodies would become an advantage. They crawl beneath a fallen tree. They squeeze between rocks. They climb a steep hill. The dinosaur finally falls behind. But one member of the group is missing. No one can return to search for him. The predator is still close. In this world, survival might sometimes require sacrificing one person to save the rest. and the day is only halfway over. The heat would be dangerous too. We often imagine the age of dinosaurs as a warm tropical world, but the heat itself would be a major threat to humans. Heavy humidity would exhaust the body quickly. Insects would bite constantly. Cuts would become infected. Skin diseases would spread. Food would spoil rapidly. Meat could become dangerous within only a few hours. If someone broke a tooth or cut a foot, a small injury could become fatal. There would be no antibiotics. They might cover wounds with leaves, ash, mud, or animal fat. Some plants might help. Others might poison them. They would only learn the difference through experience. But experience often means someone dies, and the rest of the group learns never to eat that plant again. Every piece of knowledge in this world would have a price. Sometimes, that price would be a human life. Building a shelter. As evening approached, the most important question would become, where should they sleep? Sleeping on the ground would be dangerous. Sleeping in a tree would also be dangerous. A cave could be dangerous too, but they would have to choose something. The best shelter might be a small cave or rocky overhang located on higher ground. The entrance would need to be narrow. A large predator should not be able to enter. However, an entrance that was too narrow could turn the shelter into a trap. If a predator blocked the exit, the humans would be trapped inside. For that reason, a second escape route would be extremely valuable. They would place thorny branches around the shelter. They would gather dry wood. They would light a fire near the entrance. They might even create simple warning devices. For example, bones tied together with rope. If something approached, the bones would rattle. It would be primitive, but in the darkness, even a few extra seconds could save their lives. The group would take turns guarding the shelter. No one would sleep through the entire night. Children and injured people would remain inside. The strongest members would guard the entrance. But once darkness arrived, the entire world would change. A threat visible during the day would become only a sound at night. Branches would break. Strange cries would echo in the distance. The ground would shake. The light of the fire would briefly reveal eyes outside. One pair of eyes, then another. Then they would disappear. But that would not necessarily mean the predator had left. It might simply be waiting. The night attack. In the middle of the night, the guard adds more wood to the fire. Suddenly, the warning bones begin to rattle. Everyone wakes up. A group of small dinosaurs is moving outside. A pack of smaller predators might be even more dangerous than one large animal. They could approach from several directions. One watches the fire. Another circles behind the shelter. A third makes noise. Are they moving randomly? Or are they hunting together? The humans would not know. The group makes the fire larger. They raise burning sticks. They shout. They throw stones. They try to make themselves appear larger and more dangerous. Perhaps it works. Perhaps the predators begin to retreat. But there is a problem. The firewood is almost gone. If the fire dies, the humans will lose their strongest defense. The youngest and fastest member of the group must leave the shelter and gather nearby wood. He runs outside, only for a few seconds, just a few seconds. But something moves through the darkness behind him. The others begin shouting. He drops the wood and runs back toward the shelter. A predator closes the distance. At the last moment, someone throws a burning branch toward the animal. The creature jumps backward. The young man reaches the shelter. The entrance is quickly blocked with branches. This time, they survive. But the night is not over yet. An enemy more dangerous than dinosaurs. Now comes the most interesting question. Would dinosaurs really be the greatest threat to humans in this world? Probably not. The greatest dangers would be hunger, disease, and injury. A predator can be seen. A human can try to escape from it. But no one can see what is living inside dirty water. No one can easily stop an infection spreading through a wound. A poisonous fruit might taste sweet. A tiny insect bite could cause a deadly fever. If one person became sick, the entire group would slow down. If the group slowed down, everyone would be placed in danger. Then they would face a brutal decision. Should they carry the sick person or leave them behind in the shelter? In the modern world, this is difficult to imagine. But in a world where survival was tested every day, compassion itself could become dangerous. If they carried the sick person, the entire group might be caught by predators. If they left them behind, that person would almost certainly die. Humanity's earliest strength was not simply intelligence, it was cooperation. For that reason, humans often cared for their injured companions. They carried them. They shared food. They protected children. And that might have given them a chance in this terrifying world. Could humans adapt? Suppose these humans survived, not just for a few days, but for several generations. They would begin adapting. They would learn to recognize different dinosaur tracks. They would understand which sounds meant danger and which ones were harmless. They would map the paths used by large animals. They would avoid dinosaur nesting grounds. They might build watchtowers on elevated land. They would create longer spears. They would dig deep traps. They would learn to preserve fire continuously. Perhaps they would drive away smaller dinosaurs and use nearby food resources. Maybe they would regularly steal eggs. Some peaceful species might become accustomed to living near human camps. Much like wolves later approached human settlements, small dinosaurs might even begin cooperating with humans. The animals could sense danger before the people did. In return, the humans might leave food for them. After several generations, humans might no longer be simply surviving. They might begin changing their position within the food chain. But that would be a very long journey. First, the original group would need to survive. Morning again. Eventually, sunlight appears. The predators are gone. Only ashes remain from the fire. The group is exhausted. One member is injured. Another is missing. There is almost no food left, but they are alive. They leave the shelter and examine the area. Only now can they see what moved around them during the night. There are claw marks beside the shelter, blood on the ground, and several meters away, an enormous footprint. That means a much larger danger had been nearby than they realized. They cannot remain in this place for another night. The group gathers its belongings. They place the remaining hot coals into a special container. Starting a new fire might be difficult, so carrying the old one would be essential. They begin walking again. Ahead of them lies an unknown forest. Behind them waits the danger of the previous night. They do not know where they are going. They know only one thing: they cannot stop. Because in this world, strength alone would not be enough. Being the largest would not be enough. Being the fastest would not be enough. The creatures that survive are the ones capable of learning, adapting, and working together. And those qualities might have given humans a chance. In the age of dinosaurs, humans would not have been rulers. They would have lived in fear. They would inspect every water source. They would listen to every sound. They would treat every night as though it might be their last. But by protecting one another, preserving fire, and using intelligence, they might have survived in this impossible world. Only one question remains. How long do you think humans could survive there? 1 day? 1 week? Or would they eventually adapt and rise above even the dinosaurs? Share your answer in the comments, because in the next video, we will explore an even stranger question. What would happen if early humans tried to domesticate a dinosaur?